Hey, this is Denise from the Denise Looking Out YouTube channel, and I have bike toured on a cheap bike I bought online for almost a decade, and we're going to talk about it. This $499 Motobecane Turino has been on some of the best rail trails and long distance trails in the country, and it's proof that you can get an inexpensive bike and travel the world. My cheap bike has been on the Gap in CNO, the Katy Trail, the Ohio to Erie Trail, and the Erie Canal Trail, so it is a well-traveled bike, and I didn't pay very much money for it. I want to preface this by saying that I just got a new bike. I finally got the bike of my dreams for bike touring. It is a Kona Sutra, and before I get into new bike day, I wanted to talk about this, my daily rider, the bike that I've had for a decade, and it has been a fantastic bike. But I also wanted to get into it because it's a cheap bike, and I was able to get a decade out of this bike, and it is going to have a long life after me as well. So in 2015, I was looking and searching for my first tour bike. And I needed something inexpensive because I could not afford the major tour brands like CoMotion, Kona, Surly, any of those because they were just out of my price range. So I was looking for a good bike that would be mechanically sound, that would hold up to the rigors of being on a bike tour and carrying lots of weight. And that is when I found this Motobecane Turino on bikesdirect.net. And the reason why I had went to Bikes Direct is because I had had a couple of friends buy bikes off of Bikes Direct, and they were like, "Hey, look, these are good bikes, and they're pretty cheap, and that they can go the distance." So I found the Torino, and the Torino had really good reviews, and so I bought it. And then it arrived, and I had to put it together because I didn't buy it from a bike shop. So um, the 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 frame was together, but I had to put the handlebars on. I had to put the wheels on. I had to put the pedals on. Everything like that had to be put on. I had to put the back derailleur on. So I looked at YouTube videos and just figured out how to put it together. So when I came across this bike, the Motobecane Turino, it had everything that I was looking for. It was an entry-level cross bike, but the components were ones that I felt like could be really great for bike touring as well. Disc brakes, a sturdy frame, it could hold at least 35 millimeter tires, um, and it was seemed like it was going to be a very good bike to last for a little while. Besides bike commuting daily on this in downtown Louisville, with some pretty sketch roads. It's been a lot of places, and it's never failed me. So it has been a tremendously good bike. So let's get into some of the components when I bought the Torino. So it was a size 50, a little big, but I made it work. Steel frame, but it did have a carbon fork, which turned out to be problematic for being able to load that fork with gear. Next, it had Shimano Claris 24-speed gearing. It also had disc brakes, and it had sturdy Wyman wheels, which I really like those wheels, and drop bars. Okay, I'm going to tell you that this Motobecane is not the same bike that I bought. I preface that because I've done some modifications to this bike. Because I wanted more comfort. Like that is my number one scenario on a bicycle is I want to be comfortable on the bicycle. So I did a fit with my bike, and if you go way back in my videos, you'll see a really old video where I actually go through my bike fit. So the bike fit basically adjusted my pedal to saddle ratio and my saddle to um, to my handlebars ratio. It also meant that when you see my handlebars and you're like, oh my gosh, Denise, those are really narrow handlebars, it is because they were fit to me. so that my shoulder and my hands line up on as I'm riding. What this means is it took away a back issue I had by having my arms flare out while I'm riding. Took it in and it cured that back problem. So new handlebars, new stem, uh, new seat. And of course, I had to put fun pedals on it because I wanted fun pedals. And these pedals actually have grip to them. I am not a clipless pedal person. I love flats because I'm on and off the bike exploring and doing different things. So these actually have grip, so I get a little bit of pull on the up, but they give me a lot of freedom. The other thing that has been replaced on this bike is the disc brakes. So the disc brakes that were originally on the Motobecane, not the best disc brakes. I can't even remember the brand because I can't find all of the gearing on what this bike had on it at the start. But I can tell you the disc brakes had to be replaced within 3 years. So when I replaced the brakes, I had the bike shop put on TRPs. So they're now really high-end sound brakes. So whoever gets this bike next will have great brakes. I also swapped out the road tires for Schwalbe touring, like puncture resistant tires. So I felt like it was important to do this video because I feel like in the cycling community, there is this culture about it being this super expensive hobby. You see it all over social media, how expensive cycling is. And well, it can be. And if that's your jam and you like to spend as much money on a bicycle as you possibly can, that's awesome. Go for it. There's a lot of people that can't afford a big, nice, expensive bike or don't want to put that money towards that and would rather put it in something else. And that's kind of where I lie. I don't want to spend a fortune on a bicycle. You'll hear me not talk about gear a lot in my videos because I think gear and your bike setup and bike components are very personal to how you ride and what you want to do. I am a bike tourist and I am a casual bike rider, which means I'm not looking for performance. I'm looking for stability. I'm looking for a bike that can handle about anything, any terrain, any scenarios. Uh, I would never want small, skinny tires that I have to worry about cornering or going on gravel because I love gravel. so, um, so that's just it. This is my needs and what I want. And what I want people to know is that your bike is very personal to you. And if you cannot afford a expensive bike, guess what? There are lots of opportunities for you to have a great bike that you can travel and be confident traveling the world with. And that's what I got with this Motobecane Torino. And the reason why I talk about the cost of bikes, because I think that it creates this barrier to entry. And I want more people to ride bikes. I want more people to get out there and tour. I want to see more folks on trails. I just want it to become even bigger. And the way it becomes bigger is for us to take away that misnomer that cycling is really expensive, because it doesn't have to be. You can get a cheap bike or a free bike and be able to travel on your bicycle. And that's what I hope that you get out of this video. So the only thing important to bike travel is that your bike is mechanically sound. You don't have to have the fastest bike. You don't have to have the biggest performing bike to travel on a bicycle. You just need it to be mechanically sound and get you from point A to point B. I'll add a caveat to that. If it's not as mechanically sound, then you should know how to work on it because a lot of bikes are very easy to work on once you learn basic mechanics. Another very important thing is maintenance. So this bike has been well maintained for the last decade. So every year I take it to the bike shop and we do our annual annual tune up on it to make sure everything's running well and swap out cables if they need it. Just make sure it's performing really well. But then if I go on a long tour, I also take it back to the bike shop just to have them do a equipment check to make sure that there's no components that may fail on me when I'm out on tour. Now, this wasn't always the case. I didn't always have the money to just go to the bike shop and to have them do everything for me. Before that, I went ahead and used, we have a community bike shop here in Louisville. It's called Fall City Community Bike Works. And what I did was I went in and volunteered for them. And volunteering required me to learn how to strip bikes of their components, put new components on, change out brakes, change tubes, anything from the cables, learning to adjust derailleurs, anything you could imagine, put new pedals on. Like, I learned how to do everything for free at a community bike shop. And then you can go into the bike shop and work on your bike. So not only was I using the bike shop to learn about bikes, I was bringing my bike and putting it up on a stand and adjusting things myself. So I was doing all the maintenance on it before I started going to On Your Left and having them work on my bike. So maintenance, huge, huge, huge part of, if you are going to buy a bike that's cheap or free, learn how to work on it. So learning how to work on my bike at Fall City Community Bike Works, it helped me feel confident and comfortable going further distance away from home, and also on bike touring, just staying further out, because I knew that any of the minor things that would happen on trail, like my chain breaking, a spoke breaking, knowing how to replace a spoke, knowing how to change a tube. I mean, it sounds funny, but a lot of people don't know how to change their own tubes in their tires. So I think it's one of those skills that everyone should know how to do that. And everyone should know how to put a chain back on. And also, I think everyone should know how to adjust their brakes and their gearing. So 10 years later, this is still a great bike. I'm not getting rid of this bike because of any failures on this bike. I'm getting rid of it because I finally got to buy my dream bike. I finally could afford my dream bike, and you'll see that coming up in a new video that I'll do on a new bike day. But the one thing I can tell you is this bike will live on. It will continue to travel. I will pass it along to somebody that I know is going to travel with it. So if this video resonates with you, maybe you have a bike, or maybe when you started, put it in the comments what kind of bike you started bike touring with, because I'm sure a lot of people would like to see what people started with, because a lot of people think that you have to start with high-end bikes, and that's not the case. You can grow into a bike and you can use what you have. All right, so this bike, until it gets to its new owner, it will be sitting on rollers, and it will be used as my roller bike for the winter. So if you've never used rollers, they're very scary. Maybe sometime I'll show you them, but I'm not good at them yet enough to put it on video. So everybody have a great holiday season, and I wish you well in planning your next bike tours.